Okay, we're good.
All right. Welcome. Thank you all for being here today. Today we're talking about Own It, which is building Black wealth, an organization to build Black wealth. My name is Ann Rashine. I'm a real estate agent with the Mad City Dream Homes team at RE/MAX Preferred. And today I am presenting with a fantastic group that is part of the Realtor Working Group for Own It. So we have Tiffany Malone from the Alvarado Group. We have Adley Fiegel from Realty Executives, Cooper Spransby, Sarah Alvarado from the Alvarado Group, and Katie Kolakowski from Stark. So welcome again. Thank you for being here, and we're excited to get started. All right, here we go. So today's agenda, we're going to first provide history. We're going to do an overview of the Own It initiative, and then we're going to talk about the Realtor Ambassador Program, where we'll look to give you some information about how you can be a part of this important initiative. So Tiffany is going to get us kicked off, and thank you, Tiffany.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Malone, and I'm a real estate consultant here at the Alvarado Group. Also, I'm an advocate for affordable housing and Black people owning things. So we'll get started here in regards to history and building Black wealth in the real estate world.
It's so hard to click those buttons, isn't it, Ann? I got you.
So we'll talk about the historical context, the wealth gap, and racial disparities in home ownership. Since the Fair Housing Act in 1968, the gap between Black and white house home ownership has increased, not decreased.
Wait, what?
And that is just insane. Like, we need to level this out and catch up. And it's just the disparities between Black home ownership and white home ownership is insane. It's crazy. And we're trying to change the narrative in regards to that. So in 2019, the median white household held $188,200 in wealth, 7.8 times that of the typical Black household. White, 188,200, Hispanic, 36,100, and Black, 24,100.
That's an amazingly huge amount of difference, 7.8 times.
So in regards to the historical context, as you know, us agents have, or a lot of us agents have seen this a lot in regards to restrictions in certain neighborhoods, who can be there, what races can be there, what religions can be there. So in 1906, the first known racially restricted covenant in Madison. In the 1920s, RRCs were used in new developments across the city, such as West Lawn and Maple Bluff. In the 1930s, the federal government then worked with local realtors to create maps of mortgage risks that redline neighborhoods with diverse populations as high risk, and encouraged other neighborhoods to segregate with these covenants as well, such as Crestwood and Sunset Village, that often ban all non-whites, or as in this case, Westmoreland banned Blacks and Italians. 1933, redlining created by Homeowners Loan Corporation. And here's a, you guys can read like number 14 on down, but you can go to like any historical library or anything of that nature and pull covenants in certain neighborhoods, and you can see that like Black people were not allowed in these neighborhoods, Jewish people were not allowed in these neighborhoods, and it's sickening. And the racial wealth gap in regards to Maple Bluff and I don't know, the south side of Madison is completely different.
I think this was so eye-opening for me, because as a real estate agent, I'm so used to looking at restrictions and covenants and seeing things like how high your fence can be and what kind of materials you can use, and the fact that you can't have chickens or, those kinds of things. But to think about that, our restrictions and covenants included things like who was going to live in certain neighborhoods, and that you could only sell your house to somebody that was Caucasian is a completely eye-opening experience for me.
Yeah, and I think also just because it wasn't that long ago, right? So like if I look at my great grandparents and the fact that maybe it was easy for them to buy wherever they wanted to, and then understanding how that accumulation of wealth happens in owning real estate, and the fact that Black and brown folks were explicitly denied, it's like, well, of course there's more money in white families' wealth building accounts than folks of color. And yeah, this is, it speaks directly to it.
Absolutely. Oh, just a second.
In the 40s and 50s, the federal government backed $120 billion of home loans through programs like FHA, VA, GI Bill, 98% of which went to white buyers. 1968, redlining was outlawed, Fair Housing Act passed. By this point, the wealth gap between whites and non-whites was well established, with the average white household now having 10 times the wealth of the average Black household. 2008, predatory lending marketed to consumers, high number of communities of color without adequate information or preparation, and sometimes using fraudulent information. And this goes back to all of this happened within the past, I don't know, it's 2021 right now, and this was started in the 40s. So the gap is so large, and it's so hard for Black folks or people of color to catch up because of this, and we're trying to make a change in regards to it. So this is just the beginning, and it could take longer, but we're just trying to be a part of the change because this is just ridiculous.
Tiffany and Sarah, I think Allie has a great question in the chat that says, like, aren't there current modified restrictions and covenants that still imply these restrictions, but indirectly? Do either of you know the answer to that?
No, well, so the restrictions are outlawed. I mean, and that's why a lot of people will say, well, it's illegal now, so it's fine. But they show up in different ways. So I guess I'm not really sure if.
Yeah, I'm on the public policy committee, and there was a big bill that we had advocated for that implied that some of the languages of the history throughout the restrictions and covenants that took some of the language may do not cause a nuisance or something like that, that have still in the state of Wisconsin are, I think, still a part of some of the restrictions and covenants.
Yeah, there's still a lot of policies and procedures that we need to change. So that is part of the Own It program, in terms of understanding the advocacy that we could actually be at the forefront of, and working directly with the WRA and our local associations and our national associations. So like there's more to be explored in this area, and we 100% need a collaborative group of realtors who actually are willing to use some of their professionalism, and experience and power and privilege to do that work. So we'll talk more about that. Thank you.
So basically, I want to normalize Black people owning homes if that is the path that they want to take. We all know that wealth starts, or not start, but wealth has a lot to do with owning real estate. And if you are renting a home for 20 years, there's no way in hell that you're going to be able to be at a different level than what you're supposed to be at. So growing up, I had a mother that had a middle school education. She rented the majority of her life, and my mom bought her first car when I was 13 years old. So like, I'm sure if someone educated her in regards to maybe, instead of paying however much she was paying for rent, maybe if you bought a condo or a townhouse or something of that nature, you could be in a different situation. Or maybe if somebody could have educated her in regards to what types of loans or anything of that nature, but that wasn't in our family, and nobody ever taught her about that. And I self-taught myself about real estate and education or anything of that nature. So my passion is changing the narrative. So our mission is to empower, educate, and guide Black families in building household wealth through education and real estate home ownership. We do this through advocacy, education, and addressing systematic racism in the real estate, banking, and financial industries. So with your help, we just hope that we can continue on with our mission and bring other people into the forefront.
Thank you, Tiffany. Sarah and I are going to do an overview of the Own It program, but I just wanted to take a minute to say why I'm part of Own It. When I started my real estate career, I knew that I wanted to devote a certain amount of my time to working on affordable housing. I've had the opportunity to be part of the Home Buyers Roundtable and a part of Habitat for Humanity. And I have seen how home ownership can have an impact on people and on their families. I've seen how down payment assistance programs have really helped people get into a property, how it's given them hope and independence. I've also seen a lot of challenges with down payment assistance. And I believe that Own It is trying to look at this in a different way and trying to create a system where people can be successful in more people can be successful with utilizing down payment assistance. So I'm excited to be part of the group.
Thanks, Anne. My name is Sarah Alvarado. I own the Alvarado Real Estate Group with my husband, Carlos, who's here on the call. Woo, woo, Carlos. I'm going to go over some of the back end of how this started, and then Anne is going to talk about what it actually is. What is the Own It initiative and how does it work? So we have an advisory team, and the advisory team really started over coffee conversations, over frustrated, heated conversations when it came to how the system isn't working for folks of color when it comes to building wealth, and how currently in Dane County, the percentage of white families who are homeowners is 64%. The percentage of Black families who are homeowners is 14%. And there are a lot of Black and brown families who have moderate to high income that are not in homes. So the percentages are not in our favor at all, because when the whole community is succeeding, then it is better for everyone. So the fact of the matter, in my opinion, is that as a realtor, there were many times where I was like, well, I'll sell to anyone. Like, I don't discriminate. And if someone has the ability to buy a house, then yeah, I'll help. But if they can't, then what can I do? I don't know how to desegregate neighborhoods. Like there's a powerlessness that the system actually creates, right? Like we're supposed to feel like we can't fix such a huge problem. So when we started digging down, when I started talking to Jeff Mack, who's at Park Bank, about how easy it is if you have family money to get a loan versus if you have a down payment assistance program, if you have funding from down payment assistance program, like the policies around that, which we'll get into. Grace Trewartha is an educator around financial investing and financial education, really focusing on wealth versus income and understanding how that works. So she's heading up the education committee that is serving the families at One City. Y'all know Tiffany Malone. Justice Castaneda is at Commonwealth. And he really helped in the very beginning part of it with this understanding around race-based funding. So when we talked earlier about how the wealth gap has increased, not decreased, right? And so how is that possible if the fair housing laws changed in 1968? Why is it getting worse? And part of the reason is because Since prior to 1968, Black and brown folks were explicitly denied. Post 1968, there's no opportunity for race-based funding. So anytime you want to offer funding for folks for housing, it has to be made available to all people, which means that a lot of white people will take advantage of opportunities like that. So the advisory team is also made up of a number of other folks that are on the website, Saran Oak, Kingsley, Goburn, Darren Harris, Heather Cap, Sarah Whitley. So there's a number of folks that are coming from the private sector. This is not a public funded program, because public funding is a lot of times where restrictions come from. So the private sector is stepping up and saying, yep, we see a problem. We're not going to wait for the government to do anything about it. And it's a small step, but at least it's a step, and it's fairly innovative. We've partnered with One City Schools, which you're going to learn more about. And we are fiscally sponsored by Forward Community Investments, which is a 501c3, which means that anyone who donates or contributes to the down payment fund, it is tax deductible, which is really important. So that's a little bit of info about the advisory team.
So there's two components of this program. It's a simple program. There's the educational program, and there's the down payment fund. So as Sarah mentioned, one of the biggest barriers to home ownership is access to money. And Sarah mentioned that, in talking to Jeff and talking about, how can these programs work better? We knew that, one of the issues is having a down payment in order to get started with purchasing a home. And as Sarah already mentioned, it is illegal to offer race-based funding. So as I mentioned earlier, I've had the opportunity to work with a number of clients that utilize down payment assistance. I think probably a lot of you on the call have had some experience with down payment assistance. We've got some great programs, but we know that there's some restrictions. We know that in today's market, if you're working with a seller and you're presenting 10 offers and you've got one offer that has down payment assistance, it has an extra contingency. It likely has an extra contingency for an HQS inspection. It's got a few more hoops to jump through. And we understand in today's market that can be really challenging for home buyers. Also, there are some income restrictions on those programs. There's sales price limitations, payback rules, and a lot of those rules are different based on the program. So I work with some clients that might be stacking 3 different programs, and they all have different requirements, and some of them are grants and some of them have to be paid back, and that's a lot to decipher.
So when we understand what it means when, for example, I want to get into my next home and I ask my family to either loan me money or give me money, what is family gifting is easy. So if I have access to family gifting, when we're talking about purchasing a home, the banks make it really easy. They just need a letter from my parents or whoever is gifting me, but it has to be family money. And then I can apply and get approved for a solid product, a 30-year fixed, for example. And nobody needs to know where the money's coming from. So when I have that financing contingency, nobody knows that I might not actually have all that money. Whereas with the down payment assistance monies, it is incredibly complicated, and you don't actually get access to some of the better loan products. And so those are some of the policies when we talk about advocacy of why is it with a 30-year fix, family gifting is allowed, but with an FHA, not only is family gifting allowed, but so is grants or down payment assistance programs or community crowdsourcing funds, et cetera, when we know what a wealth building mortgage looks like. So I think it's also on us to learn about why and how some of the differences make it added barriers for folks of color to get access to these products and to get into homes. So we were wondering, what would it look like if the community became the family wealth that Black families have been denied? And when we talk about Black families, we are talking specifically about Black families because in 100% of all of the restrictions and covenants that have been studied, it was either there was sometimes multiple restrictions. Sometimes it included Jewish, Japanese, et cetera, but 100% of the time it included Black or Negro families or people from African descent. So we do know that there is it is known that there's anti-Blackness as part of racism within the United States. This program is for Black and Brown families specifically, but it was important for us in creating it to acknowledge the anti-Blackness within the policies and procedures, et cetera, that we have seen come up. So a lot of times people ask that, why is it just for Black families? It's not just for Black families, but it's important for us to understand where this comes from. And there's a lot of history that, Tiffany talked about some of it. There's much, much more, and we'll give you resources for that too. But that's one of the reasons why we've partnered with One City. And what do we have for the next slide? Because you know me, I like to go on tangents.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, a major component of this is the education. And the way that this program has been structured is that families that want to participate in the program will go through 8 sessions of a wealth building course. Those sessions will be free, and if those families believe that homeownership is the right route for them, then there'll be 4 sessions that are specifically about homeownership. We're working to give these families tools in order to be successful, and understanding that some of these families will be first-generational homeowners. And so knowing that they may not have grown up in a home, they may not know about the process and home repairs and some of those types of things. So this program is built around mentoring and is built around education and mentoring.
Can I just throw in something, Anne? The
Please.
other portion of that education program is that there is a framework of racial justice incorporated into it, because there's so much financial literacy education available. That's not the issue. So 80% of the wealth building courses really does take, your basic wealth building understanding of financial literacy and budgeting and understanding credit. But to understand the historical context, to understand that it's the system that was created a certain way to explicitly deny people, that changes the narrative. And that it isn't anybody's fault that their families weren't, that their parents didn't own a home. And when we look at, even with the predatory lending, that a lot of us on the call were, if we were working in real estate in 2010, et cetera, we saw a lot of short sales and foreclosures that ended up being families of color. And a lot of it was a 5-year balloon, not knowing how to refinance out of that. Or sometimes the point was to get people into, a lot of lending institutions, they had these quotas. We need to get folks of color into homes. Well, getting someone into a home, and it's not a wealth building mortgage or a situation for them, is not going to help the family dynamics. So if you grow up watching your parents go through a foreclosure, are you going to be are you going to think that that's something that you would want to do in the future? Potentially not. So being able to see how the system has failed certain communities actually creates a space for, okay, the system was created and designed a certain way. Now, how can I work the system just like so many other white families work the system to get wealth building opportunities for my family? So I think that is an important piece to the education program. It's not about getting everyone into a home next year. 100% no. It's like, what do you need to know so that maybe it's 2 years down the line, and then we can be supportive in 2 years down the line. We really want it to be about educating and from the community, right? So these are local experts of color in the community educating the families at One City. So thanks for letting me jump into that, Anne.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. So when families are thinking that home ownership is the direction they want to go into, they can apply for a $15,000 grant once they've completed that education program. When they apply for those funds are deposited into a restricted account that's available to them. So that's funds in an account waiting for them. So we're again, as Sarah mentioned, a lot of times if you're gifted money, you have the letter, it has to be from family. These funds are sitting in the account waiting for that family to then put in an offer on a property, have those funds set aside, and not have to go through the process of indicating where the funds are coming from. This is a plan for homeowners, somebody that hasn't owned in the past 3 years, and it's a plan where they can own or occupy a single family home or a 2-unit home. So why One City Schools? One City Schools is the fact that it's a school and that this program is really based on education, made it a great partnership. We've already talked about that race-based giving is against fair housing laws. 85% of the families enrolled in One City Schools are families of color. And One City Schools has a 2-generation model. So they're looking to create a system where families can learn from each other. And again, this just falls really closely in line with the goals of Own It. Sarah, do you want to talk more about that?
About why One City Schools specifically?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people ask, why can't it be available to everyone? And I think we've already talked about that a little bit in terms of if we just created a down payment fund that was open for anyone at the city of Madison, how that would potentially open the door for a lot of white folks to take advantage of the program. There's a lot of down payment assistance, not a lot. There are a number of down payment assistance programs that are available to all. So, there's plenty of opportunities for not all white families have access to wealth. Like, we get that. But the One City Schools is the avenue for, right? It's the avenue for us to reach the folks that we want to reach, that we want to be able to create access for funding. And it's a really innovative school. I mean, if you don't know about One City Schools, I highly recommend checking them out. Colleen Kerr has put so much passion and time and energy into making the school as successful as it is, and it's continuing to grow. So there's a lot about why we're excited to be working with One City Schools. With that being said, wouldn't it be awesome if we could expand the program? And what ways can we? So having the growth of the program and thinking outside of, like, in a couple of years, as we watch this pilot program have success, if it is going to have success, what would be the next step? Would we partner with another school, maybe through MMSD, where the majority of families are families of color? Is it a neighborhood association? Always staying in compliance with the fair housing rules until the fair housing rules allow for race-based funding. This is kind of where the workaround is. And since I've got the mic, I think Jeff Mack, are you here?
Yes, I'm on. And sorry, you guys, I'm late. I'm coming out of another meeting, so I apologize for the.
No worries. So Jeff, can you introduce yourself and tell us why you think that this program is needed?
Yeah. So So thanks everybody, and sorry again for being tardy. My name is Jeff Mack, VP over at Park Bank. Been in Madison, kind of grew up in Madison all my life, and just am super excited about being a part of this in any way, shape, fashion, or form, and working with Sarah Alvarado, obviously, and the team. I think this is extremely important in the sense of it provides families, we provide some intentionality, right? So we are actively looking at making sure that this goes to the demographic that we all talk about and we know needs access to home ownership. for so long, I cut my teeth in the banking world and in mortgage lending, and a lot of times we talk about how the past says, how the past creates issues and impediments for certain demographics to grow and to gain generational wealth in a capitalistic society, so on and so forth. And what's going on right now is we're trying to change that narrative and trying to provide not just the literacy piece, not just the understanding of what it means to be in banking or or have home ownership, but also provide, the ability to, once you achieve that understanding, now we can provide you with funding to get access and to get into a very, I guess I'm trying to think of the right word to say for our current market, a very strong market where you can't put in, contingencies around waiting on Dane County Housing Fund, so on and so forth. When there are a lot of people out here, when you're up against a larger demographic and a larger group of people trying to buy the home. So we're trying to give quicker access to the funding, which I think, and create the intentionality where we're reaching a certain group of individuals, Black and brown folks, which we all know is necessary for more home ownership. So to me, my goal and our goal is to just create that intentionality. And I think this provides an amazing opportunity for all of us to pitch in a real way. And I think so many times we try to say we want to do things and we want to help, but that we don't really have any access. And I think now with the group that you have in front of you, especially with Sarah, preaching from wherever she possibly can, it's really helping get the word out. And we appreciate you guys so much for even being on the call to help move the needle. So hopefully that works, and hopefully I answered, or hopefully I said what Sarah wanted me to say.
So Jeff is also
She'll give me a text and say yay or nay in a second.
So thank you, Jeff. He is the vice president at Park Bank and knows a lot about the policies that we are looking to change in the future too. But also he's on the board at FCI, where the Forward Community Investments, and that's really been helpful because trying to figure out how to create the account and like the partnership so that we can make sure the 15,000 can correctly and legally and in compliance and easily, like how do we make it easy to access the funds? That was really tricky. So huge shout out to Jeff working with FCI and all of his understanding with how banking works, because it has been really complicated to create that aspect of it. And we can talk more about that at some point if you ever want to get into the weeds, but just huge thanks, because it was complicated and it shouldn't be. Which kind of leads us into where the money comes from, right?
Yeah. Where does that $15,000 come from? So Own It has a goal to raise $500,000 by the end of the year. And that money is going to come from fundraising, from real estate agents, from banks, from credit unions, from different organizations. And then we're also looking at transactional contributions. So, agents could have the opportunity to have a certain amount or a percentage of each closing, a percentage of that money go to Own It through their production. So we have some brokers that are early adopters, and Sarah, I'll let you talk through this slide.
Okay, so the fundraising piece has been actually really easy. And I know that there's a slide coming up, and I skip slides all the time because that's how I roll. We've already raised $250,000. And we haven't even created the fund producing. Can you actually go back, Anne? So the calendar contributions is what your typical fundraising is. And we've had a group of engaged neighbors contribute $90,000. We've had a church do a matching fund of 25,000. So they have contributed 50,000 total from them. We have gotten some money from banks. We haven't even started asking yet. There's been a legacy gift of $40,000 from a woman who, when she passed away, in her will, it specifically said, I want X amount of money to go to Black Homeownership. specifically Black homeownership. So that was a huge seed money for coming up to where we're at right now with the 250,000. And 250,000 will serve 15 families next year. But that is not a self-sustaining program, right? The more folks that get into the program, the more education that happens, and the cohort to credit building and budgeting, et cetera. The goal is to have that money be fund producing, which is where this transactional contributions comes into play. And that is the understanding that there is a funnel potentially between every time there's a sale, so much money is passed along in different hands. And a lot of the hands are, and a lot of the accounts, there's a lot of whiteness in real estate and in banking and in title companies. And there are no Black appraisers in Madison. So it's not an easy industry to get into unless you have some money up front, because, well, we all know it's not easy getting into real estate and making it actually work. So with that being said, if we can create a commitment and this process where at the time of a sale, and it could be a seller, it could be a lender, it could be a realtor who is committing to contributing a portion of their commission or percentage every single time. So that's what the funnel is. And that's where the money can grow the down payment fund for Own It. And then if we can skip this slide. We do have some early adopters that we're really excited about. What we're asking brokerages to do, we're not necessarily asking them to contribute financially, although that would be awesome. And there are definitely ways that that can happen. We're asking the brokerages to make it possible so that when the agent has a closing and then they send their closing package to the person who cuts the check, we'll call them the check cutter, that it is whatever the agent decides, maybe it's $20, maybe it's 1%, whatever, doesn't matter. We don't need to know, but you commit to some sort of portion or percentage of your commission that'll go to the Own It fund. And then the broker cuts that check on your behalf. So you get your check less the amount that you've instructed the broker to contribute to the Own It fund. So then the broker cuts a check directly to the Own It fund. And that is on behalf of the agent. So we all understand how tax deductions work. We want to make sure that that deduction is in the name of the agent and not the brokerage. And there's lots of different logistics that go into it. We at the Alvarado Group have been participating in this to try it out, to see how it works. We do it quarterly. So whereas some broker might do it at every single commission check, you can also just keep tabs and do one check every quarter. So there's different ways of doing it. RE/MAX was the first to be like, whatever needs to happen, we will make it work. So huge thanks to that. Century 21 is also looking at not only, they're trying to figure out how to make it work, not only just to allow for the agents to participate, but to also be contributing, whether that's a matching donation, whether it's a percentage of their proceeds or profits, et cetera. First Weber just announced this week that they are going to allow for their agents, and they can be and they're going to be a participating brokerage. Realty Executives, Capital City has signed on, and Weikert Realtors Lake Point has signed on. So we have had a number of conversations with a number of brokerages. We haven't talked to all of them. We are all volunteers. We're doing the best we can. So if we want to skip to the next slide. It is a really easy way to get started. A lot of realtors are already giving a lot to the organizations that they care about. And this makes it a systematic approach. So in the way that I know I'm paying taxes every quarter, I know automatically what I'm making is going towards supporting Black homeownership. And as someone who has benefited a lot financially in being in real estate in Madison, it's really important that we are financially stepping up as well in whatever way we can. So if your brokerage hasn't made the commitment, we can get the conversation started. You can connect with them, and you'll get a lot of information from Allie really quickly here. And what that will help you do is be able to talk to your brokerage about it more too. So Allie. Okay, that was me, right? Sorry. This is where we're at right now. We already have 71 participants signed up. We had the first wealth building course last Sunday. It was amazing. You already know we've raised $250,000. And there's going to be multiple courses throughout the year. So if the families at one city did not get into this specific course, there's another one already scheduled in January. They will be ongoing. There's going to be 2 times a year. So the windows where applications for the $15,000 will be awarded. So the first one will be in February of 2022. So the folks that go through that home ownership course will be all ready to go. And I think someone asked about learning about other down payment assistance programs. 100%. You can stack different down payment assistance programs if you want. And there's going to be a lot of education around that. And then there's going to be another window for the 15,000 later in the year. So every year there'll be about 2 times where folks at one city, depending on where they're at in their, when they're ready, when they feel like they're homeowner ready, will be able to apply for that money. And this is the reminder that it's not a cause, it's not a charity. It's a systematic approach for the real estate and banking industries to acknowledge and commit to righting the wrongs of systemic racism without blame and shame. That's not how we play, but it is the truth. There has been systemic racism that continues to perpetuate increasing racial disparities and an astounding wealth gap between white and Black families. Now Allie takes the floor.
Okay, perfect. Hello, everyone. My name is Allie Fiegel. I'm with Realty Executives Cooper Spransey and Madison, and I'm coming to you from my camper in my driveway because I just needed a quiet space for my 2-year-old. So that's the background I got going on. Okay, so I'm going to share information with you on the Realtor Ambassador Program within Own It, and a little story about me. I'm super excited to be a part of this program because as I've just learned more and more from Sarah about how we realtors, and of course myself included, how we may have contributed to home ownership gaps in our city, of course unknowingly. As I've learned more about that, I knew I just needed to make some changes. And as Sarah and Ann kind of mentioned earlier, it's really easy to feel helpless with such a big problem that's happening in our city. But when I heard about this program and how it would be different, I knew I wanted to be involved. So I'm super excited to be here. And instead of feeling helpless, this Realtor Ambassador Program is going to be our way to really make a huge change and really commit to this program. So up till now, we've discussed some history and we've discussed the overview of the Own It program. So now that we're going into the Realtor Ambassador portion, we're going to talk about how we envision this program growing. And this is where our ambassadors come in, and we want you to be an integral part of this initiative. So what I'd like to do for this segment of the presentation is to give you all of the details of what this program is going to entail and what you can expect if you choose to sign on as an ambassador. So please keep in mind that our ambassador program isn't officially going to be launching until beginning of October. So if you're interested in signing up, you'll kind of be on the wait list or early adopters, and we'll get you the information soon. So let's start out with discussing the goals of this Realtor Ambassador Program. So first, yay, there it comes. Okay, we want the ambassadors to commit to regular contributions to the down payment fund, and we'd like you to commit to a portion of your commissions going to that fund. And next, we want you to stay up to date on Own It. So we just want to feel like this is a team effort and a partnership. And so we want you to be fully invested. So we want to be regularly communicating to our ambassadors through our email list and just other check-ins that we'll have going on. And next up, we'd like our Realtor ambassadors to be strategically helping to build this program. So we want to make sure we're equipping you to share information about Own It and to help get more contributions and to help other agents get involved as well. So when we have this strong community of ambassadors, we can really take this all to the next level. And so we're looking for agents that are committed to all 3 of these aspects. So next up, let's talk through step by step what you can expect when you sign on to be a Realtor ambassador. So again, please remember that we're just starting this up. So none of this is officially launched yet, but I we're hoping to get this ready by beginning of October. And I just like to give the overview. So first off, in order to sign up to be an ambassador, there's going to be a really quick Google form that looks like this. So you'll fill it out just so that we can get all the information we need from you to get started. And then from there, you will instantly receive an email for your Realtor Ambassador welcome kit. So our goal for the welcome kit is to be super thorough about your involvement as an ambassador, and also just to keep things as simple as possible for you to make a really big impact within this program. So when you open that email, you can go to the next slide. Perfect. There's going to be a really quick 10-minute onboarding video that's super nerdy, and I made it, so don't judge me. But you're going to watch that, and it's going to be all the information that you need. And I think you can click. There we go. All right. Thanks. We'll be explaining everything that you need to know in order to get started as an ambassador. So we'll review what to expect as a Realtor Ambassador, and then we'll review some education materials that are available to you. And then we'll also review ways to connect with us and ways to share that you're a part of this new initiative. And then lastly, we're going to talk about how you can help build this program with us. So after you watch the video, you'll find a link at the bottom of the email to download your welcome packet. And this is just kind of another visual that goes along with the video too. And then next, you're going to want to access the Google Drive folder so you can get access to everything you'll need in the program. So this Google Drive folder is going to contain everything you need to keep it all like in one place. So you can go to the next slide. So it's going to contain important links for each website and each document that you need. So again, we're trying to keep this as simple as possible. And it's also going to contain links for extra education materials about racism in the real estate industry and about the Own It program and One City Schools. So you have that in one place as well. And then it's going to have links to resources for sharing that you are a part of the Own It program. So again, it's kind of all about getting the word out, and we want to create that buzz around this program. So in here, you're going to get access to the Own It logo for marketing purposes, and also a realtor badge. That's the thing at the top here, to show that you're now an official Own It realtor. And there'll be also different Canva templates you can use to share that you're now a proud Own It ambassador, so you can share those on social media. And all the instructions for how to access these templates are outlined in the video and in the welcome packet, and it's all laid out for you here. So hopefully it's all wonderfully organized for you to know what you're doing. Okay, let's go back to that spreadsheet. You're also going to have access to email templates, and this is going to be one of the ways that you'll be helping to strategically grow the Own It program. So let's talk about what these email templates are going to be like. So the first one is going to be a templated email you can use with your clients during a transaction. And obviously your relationship with each client is a little different. So you don't have to use this if you don't want to, but we wanted to make sure we're giving you the tools that would make being an ambassador and growing this initiative as simple as possible for you. So this email is something that would be sent after your client has an accepted offer. And it's going to explain what the program is that you're contributing to from their closing. And then it would give your clients the opportunity to get involved themselves by either learning more about the program and joining the email list for email updates, or contributing themselves as well. So you're giving them the links and empowering them, if the situation warrants, I guess. If you have that type of relationship with your clients, you're able to do that with a templated email. And then the next email template would be sent out to the co-broke on a transaction once you have an accepted offer, if you'd like. And this one's going to explain the overview of the Own It program as well, and then gives the realtor 3 options to get involved. So that's either by joining the email list for updates or just learning more about the program, or a link to contribute from their closing as well, or to become a realtor ambassador themselves. So we're hoping to continue spreading the word about this program and just getting as many people involved as possible so we can make a much larger impact. So that's kind of what the Realtor Ambassador welcome kit is going to look like. And it's going to be officially launching in the beginning of October, but we would really love it if you're interested to commit today by becoming an early adopter, whatever you want to call it. So there's going to be a link in the chat, I think, coming up if you'd like to sign up. So if we can all work together as partners in home buying and selling, real estate professionals can play a pivotal role in increasing rates of Black home ownership in Madison. So hopefully we can do this and make a big impact. Okay, so next up, we're going to go into a Q&A. So you can go ahead and put your questions in the chat right now. And before we get to those questions, we'll just review what the next steps are for you if you're interested. So first, you can sign up to be a Realtor Ambassador, and there's going to be a link in the chat, I believe, for you to fill out the information that's in the Google form. So please keep in mind that this is like kind of a wait list for now, and then we'll be sending you further information as we finalize all the finishing touches, and it's ready to go in early October. And then next, you can talk to your broker about becoming a participating broker and getting them all the information they need to get started so that we can just equip more agents to be part of this program. So to learn more, there's gonna be links popping up in the chat, so check those out. And then, perfect, we're gonna get started with the Q&A.
Yeah, Allie, thank you so much. I want to just quickly, because I think we're talking a lot right now about the Realtor Ambassador Program. I want y'all to like envision what this looks like in the future. So like the reason we're starting with the Realtor Ambassador Program is because realtors have huge influences in terms of recommending lenders and connecting with title companies and inspectors, et cetera. So with that kind of influence, if in the future we can see this growing where there are own it ambassadors, not just realtors, but maybe it's a real estate attorney who is like, yeah, I really believe in this and I live in Madison and I want to see a change. I work with a lot of for sale by owner clients. I want to promote this program with my clients as well. Or even just, I want to contribute a portion of what I'm making with every single sale as a real estate attorney to this. So it's not necessarily just for realtors when we look at the whole big picture of the potential for an innovative approach like this. But we're a pilot program, right? So starting somewhere, we really felt like it was important to start with realtors. Because we have so much contact with so many different players in this transaction. So if you have interest in helping it grow and want to get more involved in the realtor working group, or you have other ideas about how to be part of there's a policy committee for folks who are more politically minded. There's a number of folks who are really thinking about ways that we can push certain policies, and that maybe is a 10-year plan, right? But like right now, starting with this Realtor Ambassador Program is where we're at. So I just wanted to throw that out there so that people could start to envision how this could potentially be a game changer in a lot of areas.
And can we just thank the people that are in the Realtor Working Group now that's brought us here? So like Ann, Lashani Hunt, Allie, like we've done a lot of stuff, a lot of meetings, a lot of talking, a lot of frustration in trying to get other agents on. So
yes, shout out to the folks that have made this happen. And yeah, Connie, I mean, we were in conversations years ago, so thank you so much for adding all of it. And there are ways that people can get involved, so feel free to reach out to us. How do we reach out? Do we do individual emails, or should we share there is an Own It email address? I think y'all know how to get a hold of us, right? Or Katie, should we put in our email addresses in here?
Yeah, and also to anybody who has any other questions too, I'm happy to follow up, and I can resubmit the ambassador form. And so then that way they have a direct contact to write back specific questions as well. So, and that way we can just make sure that everybody's heard and in touch with. And yeah, or if you have a specific question and you need us to reach out to you directly too, like Constance, I see yours. I'm going to put the link back up for you and we'll reach out to you as well. So I'm just taking note here as well. So I see all of you guys.
Hey, do we have some questions in the chat that we want to address now?
I haven't been following the chat, so I don't know.
I mean, I don't think we have any right now that we haven't addressed, but I think one thing that would be interesting of note is if you guys want to share in the chat something that you learned today that you might not have learned, or something that makes you think about something a little bit different. If there's anybody brave enough to start that up, we'd love to see something that just made you think today. So what does that look like for you? And then that way, if somebody has a question, we can be on the lookout for that as well.
And also, if anybody wants to unmute themselves and ask a question, we can do that as well.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Connie Miles. Thank you, Sarah, and the committee. This is such a wonderful event. Yes, we were in conversations a while ago, and you guys really ran with this. I love this. Just for those that don't know, I am a realtor with eXp Realty. Have not been that active lately, and so that's why I was asking about contributing outside of commissions. But I'm also interested in the process to become on the advisory committee, if there's any open seats for that.
Yep, we'll talk. We'll follow up, Connie.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks so much. Again, this is beautiful, Sarah.
Yeah, we need all the help we can get. So we really appreciate anyone. We also totally understand how busy it is when we're in real estate. So part of the Realtor Working Group is this, this understanding that, like, if you get too busy and you can't show up for a couple of things, like, it's not the end of the world. And that's one of the reasons we wanted to make it easy for folks to contribute financially, because we are all pushed to the limit at times. So understanding that there are different ways to show up and not having this, this guilt narrative that happens. And we're all in this together, and there are ways that we can do what needs to happen. So I want to make sure that that is understood, because I think it's important. I am curious if anyone was surprised or about anything in this, or if they have in the weed questions about how the actual fund works and how it works with the banks.
Raja, I have been on and off just because I wanted to get up to speed and learn a little bit what you guys are doing more sort of on the residential side. And so you may have talked about this, and I apologize if you did, but how does one like me get someone introduced to the programs, the class, et cetera, in order to be able to qualify?
Hi, Rajat. I would say the best way, we do have some awesome flyers that have been created. So one of the ways would be to, if you know people who are selling, I think sellers are great folks for getting involved. A lot of people are making a lot more money than they thought they were going to be when they're at the closing table. And there's definitely an opportunity for funds to be funneled from sellers directly. In terms of real estate professionals, sending them a link to the website, or telling them that you're excited about the program because you also see what kind of issues our community is facing. And when there's interest in the community, it will leak to different realtors and lenders. I know that when we've talked to lenders who don't know about it, they get excited and then they want to join because hopefully we can make it easy for that to happen. So does that help, Rajat, in terms of ways that it's a lot of it's word of mouth at this point?
Yeah. What about, I know that I personally help people, especially in the SBA world, like fix their credit. And then we ultimately get into the homeownership conversation, which I obviously don't do. But if they're ready to start that conversation, we maybe take the class personally. I think I just saw somebody post the Own It website, maybe. Is that where I direct the individuals that might want to take advantage of the program?
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. So if we're talking about folks who of color to have access to the education program, currently it's only available for One City families, alumni, and staff. We are hoping to expand it in the future, and that's where we're going to need more help from the real estate community, I think. But but we have been giving them the home buyers roundtable information. There are other education opportunities in Madison that are available to all folks. So I guess I would start there. I usually also tap into Sarah Whitley at Old National Bank because she has a lot of information about education programming. But we're connected with the Home Buyers Roundtable as well, and they always offer great educational programming.
Thank
Sarah, we
you.
have a question in the chat too. How many families a year is the goal? Do you have a goal with that currently for Own It? Do we know what that number looks like? Or
I think the goal is to be able to financially support every single family that is ready to buy a house. We don't know. Out of the 71 families that are in the course right now, over the next couple of months, we're going to know who is in the position to purchase, and then we'll raise more money. If there are more families than funds, we'll just keep pushing to raise money. But because this is a pilot program, we don't know. I mean, I know everyone likes to have goals. That's why the goal is now 500,000, but we can grow it. We just really want to make sure that we're able to serve in the best way we can.
Hey, Sarah, Mary Duff here. I just wanted to jump in quick. For those who don't know, I'm chair of the WRA, but with Star Company locally. And I want to congratulate you guys on how far down the path you are. I didn't know anything about it, but for the fact that one of the teachers from my kids' old school, who's now at One City, pinged me on Facebook about this program. So I'm appreciative to get up to speed. A couple comments. One is, I think, making it a little clearer. I learned that it is for One City families, but I also appreciate the explanation about why it's a good place to pilot the program. Super impressed by how much money you guys have already raised without a lot of publicity. So I think that there's a lot to work with as soon as people find out about it. I'm certainly, my whistle is wetted from today. My other comment is with the discussion about public policy and changes that can be made, please, allow me to, if need be, but let's tap our WRA legal team, because nobody's better at helping navigate that world. And I certainly hope, I know that they'd be very interested in knowing where you are and where the discussions are and where the hiccups you're running into may be, so that we can assist.
Mary, I would love to take you up on that. I don't have strong connections.
Remember, you do, let's tap them.
I haven't necessarily, we don't need to go into the personal aspects of all of it, but it would be helpful if somebody else was willing to take that lead in terms of connecting with local and state associations. So I welcome any support you can offer, Mary.
Yeah, I've pissed him off too.
Thank you, Ben.
So early in the comment thread, I shared a recent article from the Capital Times, a question and answer with a history professor here at the university, Dr. Paige Glotzer. For those of you who are interested in some of those restrictive covenants and how they played a role in some decisions made in Madison, you could read that article. She also, though, authored a book called, Segregation, How the Suburbs Were Segregated. And it discusses a Baltimore suburb in the early 1900s and really the birth of restrictive covenants as they were both developed to enhance and protect value, but then also when they were adopted by the very early Realtors Association, and how that turned into the Home Loan Association and some of those other early organizations that were referenced. But I keep a little podcast. She'd sat with us and we'd had a really interesting discussion with her. But for those of you who want to learn some bigger picture, like where did restrictive covenants come from, her book covers that, and there is a link to it in that article.
Thanks, Ben. We do hope to do more education around redlining and modern day redlining within the real estate community and in the lending communities. So you can, as an ambassador, you can watch out for some of those seminars and webinars and guest speakers that'll come in over the next 6 months, year.
Other questions, comments? Okay.
Who's ready to sign up?
Good. Wonderful. Well, thank you for being here today. We're excited to get more information out to you. Certainly as you're going through things, if you have questions, comments, please let us know. And again, excited to take on this initiative with a group of professionals and pilot it and see where we can go from there. Sarah, anything else you'd like to add?
I'm just so grateful for everyone who showed up. I know there's a lot of people in the realtor community who are passionate about this and just haven't known about it. So forgive us if we haven't reached out directly. We're doing the best we can. We really want to make sure that everyone knows and that brokerages have the opportunity to be a participating brokerage as part of this. It will make a big difference in making it easier for that funnel to grow. And so help us out in any way you can in terms of getting the word out. And, we're launching in October, but at any point, right? Like if it's not this year and it's next year, you want to get involved, just know that we're not going anywhere because we're here for the long haul. So thank you everyone so much for showing up today. Do you want me to play some music now? Like what?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.